Paul Finebaum, who I have a lot of respect for, because Paul Finebaum to me is a mixture of poking the bear, which you need to do. And he's also a mixture of when he says something, he usually has information. He doesn't say, my sources told me, because that's very newsy. But he talks to everybody. And he said that he thought that Tennessee leaned too much on Nico Iamaleava. I actually thought it was the exact opposite. And I thought that they should have leaned on him in 2023-24, but they did not. Caleb, what do you make of this comment? And if you want to share with us the exact quote, feel free.
Yeah, so Paul was addressed, just to point this out, about a month ago. Paul said experts he talked to think Tennessee's going to go to a transitional year. But then he spoke with On 3 in a behind the paywall interview, and he basically said that getting to the playoffs was key, and he said that's the new normal in college football, where you can live off that the short term, and he says, and I think Heupel will. So he thinks Tennessee's going to get back to the playoff, touted the schedule, and then also touted Nico. However, he proceeded to then say kind of an odd thing that I thought, which was that he basically said that he felt Tennessee relied too heavily on Nico last year. His quote was, I still think he's a bright coach, talking about Josh Heupel. I think it was just leaning too heavily on Nico Iamaleava last year. Now, that threw a lot of people off, because a lot of people felt the way you did, which is that, like, really, it didn't seem like they leaned that heavily on Nico last year. It seemed like they leaned heavily on Dylan Sampson. At the same time, there is an argument, Dave, that they should have leaned even more on Dylan Sampson, because if you watch the way teams played defense last year, it's not that whether Heupel leaned heavily on Nico or Dylan, it's that defenses leaned heavily on making sure that Tennessee deep ball wasn't there. They sold out. So, Dave, there's an argument to be made, and I'm going to throw this out to you, where shouldn't Tennessee have just stayed going to the well? Because no matter how many times they went to the well, defenses weren't cheating up. They were selling out to make sure that deep balls weren't there.
Wait, let me make sure. What's the well?
Running the ball. Shouldn't they have just stayed running the ball even more because of the fact?
I had no problem with Tennessee's offense last year. I mean, execution, yes, but the two tight ends being a little bit more conservative given what defenses were doing, I actually thought it was a really good coaching year on offense by Josh Heupel, which I know people are saying, like, oh, what are you talking about? 2022, they scored 500 points a game. Did I do a new voice? No, that, to me.
Now who does voices?
I know, I'm done. Oh, that pesky DNA. But I will say this. I just don't believe they leaned on him enough. And I would have put more pressure on him in 2023 by playing him. I would have probably stuck with, again, I like what they did coaching wise last year, but I probably would have stuck with the aggressive 3 wide receiver approach a little bit more than they did, Caleb.
All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of a different approach, believe it or not.
And let me just say, people are going back and forth about Paul in the message board. Yes, part of his job is to stir stuff, but he does share information and realize that he is really tied in with the university. I believe he's spoken to some journalism classes, may even be a booster. I don't know that for sure. But I think you need to know that he has Josh Heupel's ear and vice versa. So he's not just making this up out of
nowhere. No, he's absolutely not. I totally agree with that. All right, here's my hot Paul Finebaum take on this and why I think he's right. Let's just bring up some stats real quick. Tennessee last year ran the ball 45 times, and they threw it 29 times per game. So
is that right? 45 to 29?
Yes. So theoretically, saying they lean too heavily on Nico doesn't make sense. However, Dave, I'm going to be honest with you. Given the way defenses were playing last year, given how they were playing Tennessee, I'd have run the ball 55 times and thrown it 19 times. I know that's crazy. Look, I think it was frustrating, Josh Heupel. I think he really wanted the deep balls to be there for Nico. But who cares if they're going to sit there? I mean, the defenses were blatantly saying, we'll let you run it all over us. We just don't want you to beat us with one of those deep balls through the air like 2022. And so if you're Josh Heupel, you should patiently stick it on the ground the whole time.
Don't forget this too, Caleb. Look at his receiver group. Squirrel White hurt. Dante Thornton hurt. Brew McCoy doesn't have his explosiveness. That's why I'm one of the few that think that with Mike Matthews and Chris Brazzell, that Tennessee's addressed its wide receiver issues, at least with the first string. I've got questions when it comes to the second string in depth, but no. Now, Timothy does say, and I think there's something to be said for this, no creativity. In fact, now short routes, jet sweeps, crossing routes, etc. Now, I think they're missing some creativity there. I think that went with Alex Golish to Tampa. Dylan says, to be fair, Tennessee had already passed over the middle of the field. I don't even remember seeing Hendon throw a slant. No, he didn't. This offense is built on deep digs and pushing the ball downfield. I do believe Tennessee found itself in a little bit of a conundrum when it had two tight ends because they couldn't push it down the field, Caleb, and that was troublesome.
I think they found themselves getting just a little bit frustrated. I'm going to say this. Heupel, where he showed a little bit of Steve Spurrier last year, is, Dave, you know this. You talk about the Prowler package. If you play soft coverage on Spurrier all game, it doesn't matter if he's running the ball well. He's going to get impatient and going to try to start forcing some deep balls, right? That was always his weakness, wasn't it, when he was at Florida? Mm-hmm. It felt like Heupel was getting frustrated by that last year. It felt
But he answered it. Steve Spurrier wouldn't answer it. He wouldn't run the football.
No, but what I mean is Heupel was running the football, but eventually Heupel was like, by the third quarter, was like, why are they still playing this soft coverage? Why do Heupel doesn't want to have to do that. You know what I mean? He's the Madden player. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Do you remember the Madden game that had Michael Vick on it, where like everybody loved to be Michael Vick and run?
Yeah, it was stupid. You could run left, run right, and couldn't be stopped.
I would drop my two cornerbacks in spy a lot of times. And you could, because remember, you can manually audible them to spy. And so I would drop them to spy and just keep them out there. And I'd run a dime package and keep them at spy. But if you play somebody who likes to run that way with Michael Vick, I'm leaving guys wide open when I do that, by the way. But I know they at their heart, they want to run. You know what I mean? So they're still going to want to run left or run right. And eventually they're going to cave and do it because that's why they're playing, to have a little fun. I think Heupel at his roots still wants to get those deep balls hit. That's what he wants. And so this is where I think Finebaum was saying he was leaning too heavily on Nico. I'm not going to say leaning heavily on Nico. I think he was trying to force Nico into a Heisman contender last year at times. And I think
not for long. I mean, I don't understand why.
Not terribly. I think he should have ran it 55 times and thrown it 19 times. I mean, I think it should have been that level because defenses were playing so soft. It was insane how soft they were playing on Tennessee last year, quite honestly. And I would have literally run it every play. I don't understand why they didn't. And I mean, I would have gone like Philip Fulmer, 1998 versus Florida, Philip Fulmer, 2003 versus Miami. I'd have gone that level of like, remember the 2003 Tennessee-Miami game? And you talk about a best coach game Fulmer ever had, and I agree. He literally just said, we're running it every time. We're just going to wait for Miami to implode because they're not disciplined. They don't play smart football, and we know they're going to screw up. And, I mean, I would have done that the whole year. And so even with the running it almost twice as much as throwing it, I don't think the gap was enough. I think they played way too soft zone. That 3-3-5 commitment was too much. And I think Heupel wanted to get big first downs, and I think he was frustrated by the 4 yards of carry. But, Dave, if you're getting 4 yards of carry, you're getting first downs every 3 plays. I mean, I'd have stuck with it.
Okay. Make it a poll question. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to take it a little bit further than that, as I'm going to say that Tennessee did that Tennessee leaned too much on Nico or not enough. And let's just make it as simple as that, because I believe it's not enough. I don't believe it was even close to enough. I look at other quarterbacks that were first-year starters. They put an awful lot on Carson Beck at Georgia. Now, maybe they put too much on him and he got frustrated and left, but they put a lot of – listen, you just don't have enough time. This could be Nico's last season. I mean, if he goes and balls out and he is a Heisman finalist, he's in New York, and he's one of the top picks in the NFL, you're going to look back, no matter what happens this year, and say, man, what could have happened in 2024?
Yeah, but they weren't playing Georgia the way they were playing Tennessee. You play, and Dylan Elam's actually, Dylan, great point, Dylan. I don't want to share this point by Dylan real quick, because he says Kirby Smart laid the foundation how to stop at a 3-3-5 tight with 6 DBs and pressure with 4 to 5 defensive linebackers. I agree, Dylan, but you know what stops that? Regular draws, just draws the whole way down the field, and you're getting 4 and 5 yards. And I think the thing that was happening was Tennessee, Heupel was getting that, but I think a moment would come where he was like, I just want to hit that deep shot. I want to get that first down. And I think he'd move to it too quickly. I'll just be honest. I think I don't think he should have been sticking with that ground game all the way through the fourth quarter of games, honestly. And I think mostly he was, but I think to a certain degree he wasn't. And I think it proved costly. Sometimes he tried to use Nico in the run game. That's where I think they relied on Nico too heavily too. Let's not forget this, Dave, that Nico did have 109 carries last year. So they tried to utilize him to run a lot.
That almost seems like a typo, doesn't it?
It does. It does. No, but they ran him 109 times. Nico had more carries than Peyton Lewis or Deshaun Bishop. I'm sorry, I got a problem with that. And I mean, I think
some of those are scrambles.
Yes, some of them are scrambles. And by the way, there were a lot of scrambles around because of the 3-3-5 people were playing with. But I think if you just stuck it on the ground, and not just with Dylan Sampson, but with Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop too, just keep it on the ground. I mean, I'm dead serious. If that number, Dave, is 55-19, I honestly think Tennessee's beating Arkansas. And I mean, I know that's crazy, but I don't think Tennessee, I mean, it's crazy to say, but I don't think Tennessee was conservative enough given how the game went. They threw it 29 times against Arkansas and ran it 36. They should have ran it 45 and thrown it 19, particularly when they had a 14-3 lead. So that's where I land on it.
So earlier, it was Timothy. Timothy, here is my email. If you could, please, I would greatly appreciate it. Send me your address, because you are going to receive a gift certificate from Hound Dogs. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. If you join the channel, you get a welcome gift, which is a gift certificate to Hound Dogs. You can also use the promo code hooked to get an additional discount on whatever you choose. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. I want to close with this. Good comment by Adam. I agree we relied on Nico too much, but mainly because he wasn't ready. If Nico was our quarterback, we didn't lean on the quarterback enough. We'll agree to disagree on that.